Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. My name is Dr. Maureen Frank, and this morning we have a very special guest with us who is very much part of the Birding with Extension team, but she does a lot of our behind-the-scenes type work. So Liz Tidwell is a program aide for a bunch of different extension things. She does a lot of the research side of what I do, so a lot of bird surveys. This year we got to do HERP surveys, which was fun and different. But then she also helps us with our Birding with Extension programs, especially youth programs. I was looking through some pictures yesterday for a talk I was giving. For those of you all that don't know, I'm sure we have some Texas Master Naturalists that join us. But for those of y'all that don't know, this week is the Texas Master Naturalist Conference, which is normally a great big deal and a great big family reunion for everybody. This year it's virtual. But that does mean that there are over 1,100 people who will be in attendance, which is probably two or three times what is normally able to attend. So that's really exciting. And I'm giving a talk today about youth birding. So Liz, there may be a video of you strutting like a pigeon and walking like a duck.
Oh, I have no idea that was out there for the world to see, but okay, I'm glad. Thanks for the heads up on that.
It's just Texas Master Naturalist. I won't share it with the whole world. So, but anyhow, we invited Liz today because keeping in theme with this, with the research theme to kind of talk about that she does still today, is I want to talk a little bit about her past research, because she worked for her master's thesis on Montezuma quail. So Liz, kind of to start off, I want to talk about what your research was and what you studied. But first off, I think we need to address the fact that some people will say, I don't think Montezuma quail actually exists, or they call them a ghost bird. Why is that? Why do they have that reputation?
Well, I thought they didn't exist for the first 4 or 5 months that I was studying them, because I never saw one, thought I heard them, but wasn't sure. They're a very cryptic quail. Their main defense mechanism whenever they feel threatened is to just sit down and freeze. And when they sit and freeze, they disappear in the vegetation. You can't see them. They have such great camouflage. And if you go out and look up a picture of a Montezuma quail, the males are these super ornate birds. They have black and white face. They have this really pretty black and white spotting on their chest. And you just look at them, you're like, how could that disappear in the vegetation? But it's absolutely crazy. But the other thing is the fact that they don't have the same diet as, say, bobwhite or scaled quail. They don't eat mainly seeds. They mostly go after what are called tubers, which actually are part of a plant that is underneath the ground. So one of these guys, other names that they go by is a hog quail. They have these super long toenails, and what they do is they'll go underneath the plant and they'll kind of excavate underneath it to get to those tubers. They're kind of like a little potato of the plant, so they're super starchy, but they're super hard to study because we can't use normal trapping methods that we use for bobwhite or scaled quail, and then they're just super good at hiding, which is great for a quail because they are the snack food of the bird world. So
yeah, so there's a lot of ways that they're similar to other quail, right? And that they're definitely low on the food chain. They have large broods, right? They're what we would consider one of those species that they don't have high survival, but they have a lot of babies to try to make up for that. But then they've got some really interesting things that definitely make them different. So, yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about your research and what specifically you learned during your master's project?
So I studied Montezuma quail from, it was 2014 to, I officially graduated in December of 2018. And over those 4 years, I was in just outside of Ruidoso, New Mexico, in the Fort Stanton Snow River Cave National Conservation Area, which is some BLM land that, if anybody knows where Capitan, New Mexico, that's the closest town to where my study site was. And during my study, I looked at, they were doing some juniper thinning on this little, it was about 375 acres, I believe. So I was looking at to see how that thinning affected the quail, to see if it brought quail into the site or drove quail out of the site, as well as I looked at roost site characteristics. And a roost site is basically where, for those of you who don't know, is where at night quail will actually sit on the ground, and it's kind of cute and adorable. They'll face their butts together to make a little circle, and all their heads are facing out. So basically you have like a circle of defense if anything comes in, as well as it helps to keep them warm. And then my last chapter was over population characteristics. So I looked at sex ratios, age ratios, and survival. So.
Awesome. Did you ever see an adorable circle of quail? Because I would kind of like to see a roost circle of quail.
I did. So as part of it, one of the ways that I stood on the shoulders of giants. I did not come up with this method. The best method to catch Montezuma quail is you use trained pointing dogs. And what we would do is we would go in after it got dark and use these pointing dogs to actually locate these quail at night. So we spent many, many hours at night running around with headlamps on. And once these dogs would point, when these coveys were roosting at night, we would actually use a net to put over top of hopefully the whole covey. That I don't think that ever actually happened where we caught all the birds, but if we caught one, that was the best, because then what we could do is go back. Whenever we would catch the birds, in order to look at survival, we would ban the birds just for identification purposes, as well as we would put either a GPS backpack, which would automatically collect data points for us, or a VHF, which stands for very high frequency backpack. And basically those were our way of following the birds. And if we didn't catch all the birds, we would actually go back, we would skip a night and then go back the following night to hopefully catch more individuals in that covey. Because as I said before, they are the snack food of the animal world. So you try to get as many as you can, because you don't know how long they're going to make it.
Perfect. That's super cool. That would actually make a neat future cup chat to talk about some different ways that we do research like that. Because mentioning that you and I have been looking at herps this summer, which for people who don't know is reptiles and amphibians. Dogs are something that they've used really effectively sometimes to find reptiles and amphibians that are kind of cryptic or hard to find. Or even for things like mammals, that are just really low density or hard to find. They can train dogs to sniff the scat and figure out where they are. So they're an awesome tool for wildlife to be able to help us to find some of those species that are hard to find. So cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing what these dogs can do. You're just wandering around, and all of a sudden they lock up, and you're like, oh my gosh, is this actually happening? Am I actually about to catch a quail? And then you walk over there and you kind of are looking, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness. Yep. I have no idea how they smelled that, but it's just crazy how once they would catch that scent, they would lock up and they wouldn't budge a muscle. Like it was amazing to watch these dogs work. Anybody that, if you know anyone that, they quail hunt, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching these dogs, and our project could not have happened without these dogs. That is from just looking through literature, that has become the tried and true way of catching Montezuma quail. So without them, I would not have caught a single quail.
Yeah, the human researchers would just be like, da, 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 da. You would have walked right by and never known that they were there.
Pretty much. Yeah, one of the downsides to these birds is that I can't tell you how many times I would get a heart attack. You'd just be walking along, and all of a sudden this quail flushes from underneath your feet, and you have that second of I'm gonna die. I don't know what this is, but I'm about to die, because they're so loud when they flush from under your feet, and it's just, oh my goodness, it startles me. Even just thinking about it, it gets my heart racing. So.
And I guess from the dog's perspective, not that they think about this, but that would be the only way that a dog here in Texas, at least, would get to work a Montezuma quail, correct? Because you can't hunt Montezuma quail here in Texas. So that's something that's different from our other quail species.
Correct. Yeah, of the 4 quail species, Montezuma quail. So you have your gambles, bobwhite, and scaled quail. And Montezuma quail are the only ones you cannot hunt. You can go to Elephant Mountain in West Texas, and you can see them. I've gone, I've heard them. I've never been able to find a Montezuma quail at Elephant Mountain, but they are definitely there for sure. Saul Ross actually did a project where they looked at them at Elephant Mountain, but that was before my time.
So talk a little bit more about their range in Texas. So you were in New Mexico, but in Texas, where, in addition to kind of that Elephant Mountain area, where in the state might people find them?
So we're based out of Uvalde. You can actually find a population of Montezuma quail up near Kickapoo Cavern State Park. So I know for Birding the Border, we're going to go up there. So I'm hoping, maybe, I can't promise anything, but I'm hoping we'll be able to see one. I know there's another ranch that we're going to that I haven't visited yet, but Maureen has, and she says it's fantastic. Apparently they have them there, but kind of more the hill country area. It's a very small pocket, like literally right around Kickapoo, like Rock Springs. My husband, his uncle had a property up there, and they heard them there. That's a very, all the populations in Texas are very much isolated. It's a pocket here, pocket there. Like I said, West Texas, so Elephant Mountain, there's a population around Alpine. If anybody knows where Hancock Hill is, there's actually a population on there. The other girl that was on the project with me, she actually went up there and was kind of testing some trapping methods on them. They were kind of our little experiment population. They're there. If you go up to Fort Davis, the state park up there, there's a population, and there used to be a population in Big Bend, the national park. There's some stipulation as to whether it's still there or not, or if it's more of a sort of an extinct little population. I think there's constantly people looking for them there, but West Texas is probably their stronger foothold in Texas. But definitely, like I said, New Mexico, Arizona has the absolute best population. A lot of the studies on Montezuma quail are in Arizona.
Yeah, so it's definitely a ghost bird anywhere that you find it, but all the more so here in Texas, because it really is these small and patchy populations as opposed to kind of a single continuous area. So
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a little Birding the Border note, though, is that we do have really 3 different properties that we could potentially see them. The Kickapoo Caverns, as Liz mentioned, and then a nearby property called Dobbs Run Ranch. And then there's a 3rd property that we're adding this year called Transition Ranch that has one of the photo-focused tours that also just has a regular trip as well. And yeah, birding trips can never make promises, but Montezuma quail, those are the places you might get to see one. And if we don't see a Montezuma quail in those places, though, you're guaranteed to see lots of other really awesome species. So those are worthwhile trips. Dobbs Run is one of my absolute favorite places. Transition Ranch is really cool. Kickapoo is cool. I don't know. I love them all. So they're all great. But so we're missing having Emily with us this morning. But Liz, I know that she would not be happy if I didn't ask you what are you most excited for Birding the Border, whether that's a ranch that you want to talk about, or one of the other events that we're doing? What are you most excited about?
I mean, whenever, I guess, oh gosh, it would have been 2019, the last time we had it, but I absolutely loved that. I don't think we titled it that, but the birds, bats, and owls. Hands down, I loved watching the bat emergence. I mean, I never get tired of it. It's so cool to see. You watch and you just imagine it's millions and millions of bats that are coming out. And even, I mean, as sad as it is, seeing hawks come along and just like scooping these bats out of the air. It's so cool. And then getting to see an elf owl. I mean, I don't know. It's a win-win-win. I mean, and Kickapoo is such a cool place, and it's so beautiful up there. I know the dinner is going to be fantastic. I mean, it's beautiful scenery. I mean, that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most.
Awesome. Yeah. And so for anyone who's interested, that is a special trip that you can sign up for. It's an evening trip because we're going to see the bats and the owls. And so that's on the first evening. So Friday night of the event is the Birds, Bats, and Owls dinner. It is a fundraiser also for Kickapoo Caverns. So something that they've done in the past is to build a bird blind, and we want to just thank them for their support of our program and then help continue to support them in what they do, and doing things like maintaining their bird blind, maybe someday building more bird blinds for those things that benefit us as birders. And then also it's a fundraiser for our Birding with Extension youth program. So if you go check that out, it is a really fantastic, delicious dinner. And if you're thinking, hey, that's a little expensive, it's because it is a fundraiser as well. And so all of those proceeds will benefit youth birding programs and efforts at Kickapoo Caverns State Park to continue their bird management. I don't remember the exact number, but I think there's been well over 200 species documented at the park. So it really is a great place to see birds as well as bats and, well, owls. Owls are birds too, but the birds, bats, and owls, the whole package is part of that special event. So Liz, anything else you want to share about quail or birding the border, or wrap up thoughts?
I don't think, I mean, Montezuma quail, best quail, hands down. That's all I got to say.
They are, and I'm glad we got to talk about them today, because this is, we're in hunting season, and that includes quail hunting season, but they're a quail that's kind of like our, they're a quail, but they're not a quail from a hunting standpoint, right? They're not a species that can hunt, and so it's kind of a little bit different, something to talk about this time of year. But still important that we talk about, how they're managed on, most of where they occur. You places that you can see them in West Texas. You mentioned public land places in case people want to go see them, right? But they also occur a lot on private lands that are being managed, and that benefits that species. So that speaks to one of the things that we like to talk about, which is the importance of private lands management here in the state of Texas. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. We have been excited to have you, and we are getting excited. As far as I know, we're not doing a Cup Chat next week, because next weekend is our Learn to Bird event. So we will catch up with y'all the week after that. I don't know if we have a topic yet. I'll leave that announcement to Emily when she joins us again. But thank you so much, everyone, and have a week, and happy birding, especially as it's a migration season. We've got a front coming through later this week. So happy birding. I hope y'all get to see a lot of things.